Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Justaposition, the podcast where we explore mental health, vulnerability, and personal life journeys featuring creators you know and love. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already and listen to our new episodes out every Thursday. As you can see, I'm in person with two people who I absolutely love. I'm so freaking excited to have you guys on, and this has been in the works for a while.
It has.
A while, yeah. And
like a year.
Yeah, it has been that we've been planning. And honestly, with your pregnancy and everything, like, I don't blame you at all for being this long.
It was wild.
You guys need absolutely no introduction, but of course, Kendall Rae and Janelle from the Sesh.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for being willing to come on.
Of course, we're so excited. We were just saying this is our first time guesting on someone else's podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so cool. And we're like sitting in this location, so
Yeah.
I'm like a guest on this set.
Yeah.
Basically, I know they've been so kind to invite me to their studio here in Colorado. And it's just so crazy being here in person, being able, I mean, most of the podcast interviews I do are virtual through a screen. So I'm like, oh my God, real faces.
I feel like it's so cool when you have the opportunity to meet in person. I just feel like it's a lot more intimate. And
the chemistry is like better.
Yeah, there's like
Exactly.
a palpable energy that I think you just can't get as well with virtual. But I mean,
Totally.
I love listening to your guys' podcast. If you guys haven't already, make sure you listen to their podcast. I love it because I find myself like actually laughing when I listen to your episodes because
that
it's
means
so
a lot to
entertaining.
us.
It's so comedic.
Yeah, we never know because we
We're
think we're
comedians.
funny, but then I'm like, do other people find the shit that we say funny? I don't
And
know.
it's so funny because people always just comment. I mean, the funnier we get or the goofier we get, people will be like, are you guys elevated?
Yeah, are you sober?
And we're not.
Like,
We're not.
yeah, we're like totally sober. This is just how we are.
Yeah.
I mean, Mile High.
Yeah,
it's
it's
true.
true. The Sesh.
Yeah. I
I
mean, it's a little inspired. Not gonna lie.
No, your guys' energy is great. I feel like the jokes you make, the way you guys conversate, like I find it really entertaining and
Oh,
really
thank
enjoyable.
you.
And I love the episodes. I mean,
Thank you.
I love that you guys are coming onto my episode because I, with Justaposition, I really love to get into kind of like deeper topics, deeper conversations, kind of give people a space, a platform where they're able to speak about things that maybe they aren't able to speak about in their normal content or videos and stuff like that. And I feel like with both of you, I mean, obviously you, Kendall, I've watched your videos. When did you start making videos? Because I feel like I've watched them for like when I first started watching YouTube videos.
The dawn of time.
the dawn of time.
I think I started my channel in 2012. Yeah, it was August 2012.
Oh my
So
God.
we're going on 13 years.
Wow. That is absolutely incredible.
God, it makes me feel old. It's crazy. It's gone by so fast.
2012.
Am I doing the math wrong? No, it was definitely 2012.
2012. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, it's 2023, so 11 years.
Oh, right. I was gonna say my 10-year anniversary. Okay.
I was gonna
The math
correct
wasn't
you, then
mathing
I was
with
like,
that.
you know what? I'm just gonna let her run with it.
Oh my God. I'm
Okay,
so bad at
11
math. I
years.
did not even notice that.
Okay, that makes me feel younger. 11 years. People.
Not
That's it.
I mean, it's inspiring as fuck because I started my channel, I think it's been 5 years now. And like watching your content from, when I first started watching content, it's just so cool to be able to like sit across from you and just also ask you some questions related to your personal experiences with creating true crime content. And then of course with you, Janelle, like you have experience working in the mental health field, which is a huge component of what I love to talk about in my content normally, but specifically on this podcast too. And I feel like there's just so much I want to dive into and really like dig deep into and uncover.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
So yeah, I'm excited to ask you questions if you guys, are down to answer.
Yeah,
So
I'm down
down.
for with whatever.
Open books
To go
right
deep.
here.
That's
Okay,
right.
sweet.
So you upload on Thursdays?
For my podcast.
We do
Yes.
too.
Oh,
Yeah.
what? Really?
So will
Yeah.
this one be? When will this episode go up? This
I think this Thursday is from what the team was saying.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we can really sync it up.
Yay.
Sweet. Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay, that is perfect because I know my team was like, you need to like get the content up immediately to edit. So perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. I'm excited.
Hey.
I mean, thank you guys, first of all, for being like open to dive into this stuff. I kind of want to, I'm really interested in asking questions about like what the experience of creating true crime has been as a creator behind the scenes, because I think when a lot of people watch your content, and I know you work with the content as well, specifically with, other podcasts and then just the general content, working within creating content around true crime, we learn a lot about the stories, we learn a lot about the experiences that other people have been through, but we don't really get to hear a lot about your experience, like with creating that type of content. And so, and as a viewer, I tend to like watch it and be like, how do you not get exhausted and just mentally drained from like dealing with such dark subject material and these really tragic stories? And how do you stay positive? Because you're such a positive person, you know, like both of you guys,
you know, it's taken time to really learn how to do it in a way that doesn't affect me at all times, because I definitely have had cases that I've worked on where I always know I've gone too far when it starts getting into my dreams and I'm dreaming about these people, or I can't stop thinking about it and I'm talking about it to my husband at like midnight, and I'm like, okay, this is too much. I have to kind of set boundaries, and I do choose cases based on what I think I can handle. And there have been times where I haven't been great at that. And so now I kind of know where I'd like to focus and what will make me feel like I'm spreading awareness and making a positive impact versus just talking about something that's really dark and scares me. So I can leave feeling positive about it at the end of the day. You know what I mean? But yeah, it can be exhausting. And there has been times where my mental health has been really affected by it. I've kind of gotten better at, I don't really know how I did it, but over time I've learned how to kind of clear my mind of that stuff when I need to. And I always say some of the way I do that is by watching some like junk reality TV, Housewives, something like when I've just filmed a really long one, I go put on the silliest reality show that I can think of, TLC, something that's just like light and
flush it out.
Flush it out. That's totally it.
That's good. Because I always wonder, because one of the reasons I love your videos so much is that there is a certain, I think, reverence that is present and respect in the way that you talk about the stories, you share, you know, the victims' accounts and what they've experienced, which I think is not only really great and the main reason why I've continued to watch your content, but also difficult to maintain, because I feel like it would be easy to kind of go one of two ways with creating content, becoming very sensitized to it and getting overwhelmed very easily, or the complete opposite, becoming very desensitized to it, which is not healthy and not, you know, good for people who really care about hearing these stories as well as yourself. So like finding that balance, I feel like would be so difficult, you know?
That's such a good way to put it. It is really hard to find the balance between that, because, you know, you never would want to become desensitized to it. But at the same time, you don't want to be overly sensitive to it to where it's going to affect you in a negative way. But I mean, you would think after covering it for so long, I'd become kind of desensitized. But I think the more that I've covered things, the more real it's become for me. The more families I've met in person and seen their pain in front of me has made me just appreciate it so much more. And I mean, there's still time, even the last video I filmed, sometimes I start like tearing up while I'm recording, and I try not to do that on camera. I normally cut because I don't want it to become about me or to, you know, make the attention about me, but it's emotional and it's hard, especially like I said, after meeting people, to not, you know, sorry, my phone's going off.
I think that was mine. I think it was Be Real. It just went off. Sorry, continue.
But yeah, it's a hard balance. I'm not gonna lie. It's definitely tough. And there have been times where, I've gotten too far in, and it's been a little hard to handle it mentally. But like I said, that's why I try to really bring something positive out of it, or take an action. That's what makes me feel good, is when I can send people to help, or, you know, make the family feel good at the end of the day. When they love the content that I've done, that makes me feel good, and I'm able to leave from that situation, that case, and feel good about it, you know?
That's so cool. I think that's amazing. And like, similarly with you, Janelle, like, you know, working with the content, hearing these stories as well, like what is your personal experience with kind of like maintaining that balance as well, and like especially from a mental health perspective, because that's where you have worked?
Well, I think in general, anyone can apply the fact that when you're helping someone or just dealing with outside things that impact you personally, it's really important to be able to find those boundaries of, because like you said, you want to, you know, put everything into this content. When Kendall's filming, or like, you know, back in the day when I was helping her research or editing the content, stuff like that, you know, it's really important to make sure that you can find those boundaries so that you're not sitting there at night thinking about it. And sometimes like naturally that's what happens.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important to make sure that you try to put yourself first, in the sense of like making sure that you're taking care of your mental health and that you're feeling okay. Because at the end of the day, if you start breaking down and you're not able to function at your best, then you're really doing a disservice to the people that you're working with.
Yep.
But I think personally, the thing that has made it so, kind of like Kendall was touching on, it's so worth it when you put out a final product and that family reaches out. Maybe they weren't working with us before and they reach out like, oh my gosh, I found Kendall's video and it was so inspiring. Thank you for, covering my family's story. Or even, videos when we work with the family members from start to finish and we're able to send people to petitions or raise money or, in cases like there have been times where we've actually been able to get the case reopened or the DAs pay attention to what's been ignored for years. And so that's really like, when something like that happens, that's really what keeps at least me inspired, is knowing that you really are making a difference. And, not only are we putting out a YouTube video that is to entertain audience, obviously, but we're also able to make a difference in the victims' lives or their families' lives. And
that's incredibly powerful. Like, because I think, and I mean, both of you guys are like morally, ethically like good people, and I feel like
thank you very much.
You're welcome. And the reason I say that is because within the content creation space and like social media and stuff like that, like it is, I know for me, I've definitely dealt with like the internal struggle of just like, what bigger impact can my content make beyond just putting stuff out there into the void for people to watch and kind of, just be stimulated with? Like, what bigger impact can it have? And I feel like sometimes it can be difficult, especially like when you're seeing people work like quote unquote real jobs, where it's like, they're making an impact and it's like, what the hell am I doing? I'm making videos and posting it online. The fact that your content is able to have that big of an impact, that it's significantly helping people's lives, inspiring families, in addition to, of course, creating content for people to become more aware, more knowledgeable, is like amazing. And that's the main thing that has drawn me to your content so far, is like seeing the families being interviewed, on camera, sharing their personal story, their personal takes, you being able to work with them, and then like reopening the cases. Like that's incredible. What has it been like to work with the families like individually?
Oh, so exciting. I mean, there have been some really thrilling moments where we really like to, my motto is we go and we annoy the people that we need to. We are very annoying, my audience. Respectfully.
And that's
annoying.
The thing is, we're always like, call this number, email this person, but don't be rude about it, because people don't want to listen to you when you're being annoying, like rudely annoying and demanding. But it's more so like, if you can poke at them and we kindly ask that you take a look at this case or, come circle back to this, then, a lot of time you'll get people to listen. Eventually, if enough people come at them.
Definitely got some movement going in several cases. And sometimes, sometimes it doesn't always work. And there's, people in power and in positions that don't take their job seriously, and, they just ignore us. But we always try. And it's exciting. Like the days where we upload stuff like that and we were really like going after it, or sometimes we have police departments calling us.
Yeah, this one time. Wow. Yeah, we sent people to go, I think, reach out to the department, and somehow they got a hold of Kendall. We're like, can you tell them to stop? Like, we got the message. We understand. We're going to look into whatever. Like, please stop. You're filling up our phone line. We're like, good. That's the goal.
That's amazing. I mean, it's like harnessing like the vigilante power of social media.
Totally.
And channeling it into something good, which I think is so needed in this day and age, especially with just kind of the mob mentality that can sometimes be really present online. Like, you're actually using it for good. And from watching your videos, like the main resounding lesson that I have learned from watching every single one of your videos, because I was literally like looking back when I was like, oh, let me watch a few more of our videos, before the podcast. And I'm looking and it has all the red like lines at the bottom of the videos. I'm just like, shit, okay, there's a lot. But one of the main things I've learned is that the justice system and the police system are completely unreliable. And the fact that you're able to use videos to kind of like take it not only into your own hands, but the hands of the families of the victims, and actually make an impact that way is like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big responsibility.
Thank you. And it's like at some point I realized what a responsibility and privilege it was to have this platform. You know, it started for me like I was just making makeup videos and story times and entertaining people. And even when I started true crime, I didn't have a full grasp of the gravity of true crime content. And at some point I realized like, wow, I can really mobilize these people and get things done. And that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's empowering.
It is. It's
that's
super
so
empowering.
Cool. Like
Yeah.
how has it kind of been like dealing with that like responsibility? Because I know you obviously didn't. Well, both of you guys didn't anticipate that this was going to be the direction that you're going to go.
Definitely not.
And working with families and being able to work with, you know, the police or whatever it is. I mean, that's a big thing to shoulder. You know, that's a lot of expectation. How do you kind of like deal with the pressure that might come from that?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of pressure, and it's hard to find the exact information, and especially in older cases. Like I just covered one recently where there was so many different sources saying different things, and it was really hard to verify which. So I try to be, you know, when I have situations like that, I'll be like, one source is saying this, one reliable source is saying this, we're not sure, and just be upfront about that and try to stick to the facts as much as I can. I really try to stay away from speculation or forming opinions about situations when I don't personally know, and I encourage my audience to do the same. And it's the internet, so people are going to do what they're going to do. But it's such a fulfilling experience. It really is. Like nothing gets me more excited than really making an impact. Like at some point the followers, the views, they don't mean much anymore.
Nope.
You know, it's like being able to make an impact and see that at the end of the day is the most important thing to me. And getting to work with families is so cool too, because so many of them have had experiences where they've worked with networks like ID Discovery or Dr. Phil or Nancy Grace or whatever, and they've had bad experiences or they're not able to be hands-on. And that's what we try to do differently. We involve them from start to finish, and then not only that, we make sure that they see the content and they approve it before it goes anywhere. They have a lot
of the control.
Yeah.
Of like what the end product is, and we're not just like, okay, this is what we're doing, and you know, you don't like it, too bad. You know.
Yeah.
It's very much so. Are you comfortable with this? Do you want this? Do you want us to talk about this? Do you want us to leave this out? You know.
Sometimes they come back with edits, and we take care of all that before it goes up. And so it's just cool to see them get a whole different experience when they've had bad experiences with other productions in the past.
That's really refreshing to hear, because whether it's news stations, whether it's, you know, a huge Hollywood companies, you know, making accounts, whatever it may be, there tends to be a lot of exploitation from when I've heard, you know, families speak out, which is so unfortunate to me, because I'm like, I can't imagine having to deal with the trauma of the whatever loss you experienced, let alone having to deal with the repercussions of people trying to exploit that story for personal gain, you know? And it's cool that you guys, I mean, the fact that you're working with the families in the first place is already a lot better than what is out there sometimes. But that you're willing to like work with them and allow them to make edits and adjustments and things like that is cool. I mean, do both of you guys like reach out and work with them individually, or how does that usually work?
We pretty much tag team it. I usually Kendall will be the first one to reach out to them, because obviously it's Kendall Rae and they are more likely to like notice that. But once we get in contact with them, we have like, you know, the three, there was another person also that works on Kendall's content, and the three of us just kind of you know, organize calls with them, and we really try and be as communicative as we can from start to finish, so they really know what to expect. And if they are gonna be involved in her content, then we kind of, you know, build questions that we think would be appropriate for whatever we're talking about, but we send it to them ahead of time so they kind of like know what to expect. And like we said, we try and give them as much involvement as they want.
Or even better, so we've had a few times where we've had people actually come out to Colorado. We fly them out, and then they sit down with us, and we have really authentic conversations in that sense. You know, that's also been a really cool thing.
That's incredible. That's so cool. And I think, like, you know, in me kind of like thinking about this episode and kind of like thinking about the conversation we would have, you know, there has been recently a lot of conversation around like the ethics of true crime
Yeah.
content, like what that looks like. Is it, really ethical to be commenting on or talking about someone else's story of loss? And I've watched a bunch of videos about it. I've heard a lot of the conversation, and looking at your content and watching it is, to me, I think just it exemplifies the perfect way I think that you should go about it, because like I was saying before, there's the reverence and the respect that you apply to it. Obviously the involvement of the families, but also just kind of the crystal clear communication of like not speculating and forming opinions and different things like that. Like in the Idaho murders case video that you recently did. I love how I know it looked like a really rough video.
That was hard. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
scary.
You commented on like not only you not wanting to contribute to a lot of the lack that was out there, but even specifically highlighting how the families were like, stop this. Like stop commenting on it, stop forming your own opinions. Stick with the facts.
Yep. I think that's huge. And it's something I've had to learn. I mean, I haven't always had the perfect ethics when it comes to true crime. I dove into this just being a fan of ID Discovery and thinking that was the model. And then over the years, I've seen the ways that, that content is exploitive, and I've just learned to adjust. And like I said, getting to meet with people in person or even just on the phone and building relationships with them just puts it in a whole different perspective that I think anyone making true crime content should consider actually talking to these people, because it changes your perspective so much more when you can hear their experience from their own words. It's really powerful.
And the fact that you like will link GoFundMe's, you'll donate to the causes, you'll promote that for people to support, I think is a good way that I think, like you were saying, I personally would recommend a lot of, like content creators who maybe make true crime content to really focus on like what positive impact can, my videos make beyond the entertainment factor,
Yeah, totally. Because it shouldn't be only entertainment. Like, of course, people consume true crime content for entertainment, but when you can mobilize them and inspire the listener to take an action, that is seriously powerful and can make a huge difference. So yeah, that's definitely been the coolest part of our whole process and how we've changed it.
Your audience is also extremely driven. A lot of them, I think, fall in the same footsteps as you, of not just doing this because it's fun or interesting or whatever, but doing it because they want to make a difference and they want to help and they connect with these families that we're talking about. And therefore, it's great that you kind of provide that platform or that launching pad that they can start off with. And then when there's a ton of them in so many numbers, you really start to make a difference. Yeah. And the impact is amazing.
Yeah. So. Power of the people, baby.
For real. Shout out to them. Shout out to your followers for that.
My audience is amazing. I'm super proud of them.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of that too, so like I said before, I love talking about mental health because I've personally struggled, with my own personal experiences. It's something I'm so passionate about talking about because I think there needs to be more visibility. And I love what you were sharing before about like finding that balance and like watching lighthearted content and stuff like that to kind of like take a mental break. I'd love to hear from like both of you. Like, what are your like go-to mental health tips that you love, like doing to make sure that mental health stays positive, especially, not only with the content you create, but like, what are those top tips that you guys have?
I mean, my top tip would be counseling and seeking therapy, which I know is not something that everyone can do. Unfortunately, I wish that it was way more accessible. I personally believe that every single person who wants to seek therapy should have the resources to do so. And I know that unfortunately it's just not reality. But that is, I think, the thing that has made the biggest difference is being able to talk to a professional that really can not only help you understand like what you're going through, but also, kind of guide you in a direction of being able to find those coping mechanisms and skills so that you can use them on your everyday life, so that when things do happen, because obviously like things happen to people constantly, but instead of it completely derailing your life, which sometimes it might, obviously that's, just part of life, but being able to recognize when you're not doing great and and having the resources to go out and seek the help that you need, whether that's through therapy or medication or online group support, you know, whatever it may be. Just really trying to get rid of the stigma that mental health has. And it's like, oh, you know, it used to be, you don't really go, back in the day, it was like, you don't really seek therapy unless you're like, quote unquote, like really going through it or whatnot. But normalizing the fact that, like, personally, like I said, I think everyone is a good candidate for therapy.
Absolutely.
You know, we go to the doctor to take care of our bodies and to get checked up, you know, physically. So why would we not do the same mentally? And it's unfortunately that, at least here in America, it's getting better for sure, but
Thank
it's
God,
still,
finally.
yeah, finally, seriously.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to find that care and being able to, you know, afford it or get to it physically, or if you have the equipment to do it at your house. Not everyone has a camera to go on telehealth, or not everyone has the ability to take time off work to go drive 30 minutes to their counselor's office. So it's unfortunate that it's like that. But I think over time, the more that we can talk about it, just like everyday people. And I love the fact that, Hyram, once you built this huge platform, you took it and are really trying to like bring attention to such an important topic. And I think that's really admirable that someone like you, who a lot of people look up to you and are such, you know, a big fan of you, that you're also taking the time to bring awareness to that. Because again, it just takes away that stigma of like, oh, you can't talk about it, you know? So
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I appreciate it. I feel like the negative stereotypes and kind of affiliation that people have with topics like mental health, the only reason they have that strength of negativity is because it's shrouded in secrecy. You know, there's that shame surrounding it. And I think like what I love about like Gen Z and just the younger generation is that mental health is not a predominantly negative conversation. It's something that is more lighthearted, that people are open to talking about, and casually, you know, just being able to talk about mental struggles that they're experiencing, or their therapy sessions, or whatever it may be. It's really shifting from something that's like, oh my God, don't say that, don't talk about that, to something that people are so open about. And I think it's such an incredible thing, because not only will it shift people's perspectives and push more people to, you know, go to therapy and get help, but also I think it'll make it more accessible in the long run too, because I know like in Hawaii, freaking, you know, therapy sessions usually are like $200 to $300 a session. It's like, who the fuck can afford that?
So expensive.
Like, that's insane.
And
it's
then
ridiculous.
if you are able to go through your insurance, usually the wait list is super long. And yeah, it's not super accessible, unfortunately. So
or if you don't click with the therapist that you get,
Right.
oftentimes you're kind of like just stuck with that.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
And I think people a lot of times who haven't been to therapy kind of expect it to click right away and almost like work right away in a sense. Like I know people who have gone, they're like, oh, I went for a month and it didn't fix my problem, so I quit. And
I'm
like,
guilty of that at some point in my life.
It makes me so sad, because I'm like, the thing about therapy is like, it almost gets worse before it gets better.
You know, that's so funny.
I'm so happy you said that.
I was just about to bring that up because you said that. I was rewatching your video just about your whole experience last night, and you said that, and that's something Janelle always says.
It almost gets worse. You have to, when you go in,
say the wound.
Yes,
What's
you got to go. When you go in, you have this wound that you've been trying to cover up with a Band-Aid, but now it's like, okay, you have to go in and clean this out, and it's gonna burn, and you have to really figure out like, okay, I'm having issues with X, Y, and Z. Well, usually the root of that is much deeper than just this one, you know, issue. So you really have to go in and put in the work. And a lot of times it starts to hurt, because you'll start realizing things and you're like, oh, damn, like this goes way deeper than I thought.
This is hard.
Yeah, it is hard. Therapy's hard. And yeah, a lot of times you got to go in, clean the wound out. It burns. But then once you can really figure out what is going on, then that's where the real healing begins. And, you know, it's little by little. And it's, there's this one like drawing, I can always send it to you if you want to put it on the screen, but it's basically the idea is like, a lot of people think therapy is just a staircase where you're like taking a step slowly and then you get to the top. But really therapy is like squiggle, like some days you're feeling really great and then all of a sudden something terrible happened and you're down at the bottom, but then you have this realization, you start climbing up again like that. And that's just life in general. It's not like a linear path.
I love that analogy about the wound because it's so accurate. And I know, like, I always stress that message so much because I don't think it's productive or healthy for, like, people to, hear about something like therapy and just be like, oh, I go for 2 sessions and I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm good. Because
fix.
the reality is a lot of us end up going to therapy or have a lot of challenges because we're trying to escape experiences, emotions, trauma, whatever it may be. But the essential part of therapy is that you have to not relive necessarily, but you have to, sometimes you do have to, you have to go back into those things that you've been trying desperately to avoid as much as possible. So it's going to be hard as fuck at first, it's going to be awful. And I know for me, like, I think it was after like 2 months of therapy, I remember being in a session just being like, why am I here? This is awful. It's getting worse. This is not fun. This is not what I wanted. But you just have to, stay consistent.
There's a method behind it.
And I will say, not every therapist that you go and see is the right fit. Like 70% of what therapy is the rapport you build with your therapist. So obviously you're not going to become besties the first session, but you should be able to build that trust and rapport with them so that you feel comfortable really diving in. And then when you are triggered or you are going through something, that they're able to safely like navigate that with you during the session. But there are times when you may not click, and that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with shopping around and using, trying out a therapist for a month, and they're like, yeah, it's great and all, but I don't know, something's not clicking. It's not a good fit, and moving to a different person. Just like with literally anything, doctors, like, it's not going to be the perfect match all the time. Yeah. And I think that's also one thing that people maybe kind of discount is like, oh, well, I didn't have this great experience with this person, so it's just therapy isn't for me. Yeah. And like I said, I believe therapy is for everyone.
Therapy is for everyone. Everyone's going to go through some shit. Everyone's going to have trauma at some point in time in their life. And it's important that you have someone you can talk to about that. If nothing else, just someone that you can have designated to talk about those problems. Like, I think, like you said, everyone deserves therapy. I think that's like the best mental health tip of all as well.
Yeah, I know that was like your question. I just went on a huge tangent.
I love that. No, this is something I absolutely love talking about, and I think needs to be talked about, Like, totally. Kendall, what about for you? Like, what are like your top mental health tips?
Have a good cousin that got her master's degree in clinical psychology. No, seriously, the ways that Janelle has helped me and at least lead me in the right direction has been huge.
You're blowing up my Leo ego here.
Okay.
No, there was a time where I was in a pretty dark place, and we were trying to do Mile High recordings, and there was one day where I was like, I can't even do this, and we had a big heart-to-heart moment. We're outside. This was when I used to film in my backyard in a garage thing, and Janelle just sat me down and was like, you need to go to therapy and like really dig into this trauma. And it was the best advice ever, because God, I'm in such a better place after really
I'm proud of you for
through
doing the work, because it's not easy. And a lot of people don't want to do it. You can't. The other thing is like, you can't get better unless you are putting in the work. At the end of the day, like, you can have the greatest therapist in the world or all the resources and all the time and all the money, but if you yourself are not willing or wanting to put in the work to make those changes in order to see results, it's not going to come from anyone else but you.
So true.
And I think it's kind of scary to think about that at first, but at the end of the day, I think it's really empowering, because your therapist helps and is great and all, but at the end of the day, you're the one putting in the work. You're the one making those changes, and you should be proud of yourself.
Yeah. I think a big thing too is even when you feel like you've got to the top of the mountain and you're all better, to keep going. And that's something I need to work on, because I had a great therapist for a while. I did a ton of work with him, but then I went in, I told him I was pregnant, and then the following week I had a miscarriage, and I didn't want to talk about it. So I never went back, and I still haven't gone back till this day, which I need to, because even though I feel like I'm in a good place mentally, it's always good to be, keeping, it's like anything else. You wouldn't just never go to the doctor again because you feel fine. Right. You got to go in for checkups, essentially.
Exactly.
So.
And you have to recognize kind of like the surface level warning signs before it gets out of control. I know that I relate a lot to what you say, because like so many times in the past, like with my more, say like my eating disorder was like a really big one where it was very easy to kind of like measure if I was doing mentally okay by like the status of like my eating habits. And I was like, well, I'm not starving myself, so I'm fine. Like, I don't need to go to therapy. I don't need to like talk about issues, stuff like that. But it was because I was ignoring my body and my mind's signs that were kind of like, hey, things are getting worse. Maybe you need to talk about this. Maybe you need help. And then, you know, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, where the hell am I? Everything's bad again.
Yep.
Shit, this has all gone downhill.
Totally.
So I think a lot of what therapy is doing kind of those little like necessary chores and things to keep kind of your
clean up.
Yeah, to keep your mentality good. Like I know one of the biggest things for me is like meditation, breath work. It's the most easy to ignore things and just kind of push aside. But if I stay consistent with things like that, then I'm like, oh, I actually feel better.
It's amazing what a difference it makes.
Yeah. Do you guys both meditate?
I did for a while.
Yeah. In fact, I did for a long time. I haven't in a while. Very bad. But I need to get back into it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's incredible. And just mindfulness in general, which I know that was on your recent episode I was watching of yours, that you talked about a lot. And it's almost seems kind of silly in the moment. Like, what am I? Like having positive thoughts to myself and all of a sudden my life's going to get better. It's a lot more complicated than that. But I think especially if you're not able to go to therapy, there are like, you know, different things that you can do within yourself that just kind of help keep you in check and making sure that you're staying aware of how you're feeling so that you can recognize some of those warning signs almost that your body's like for me personally, I struggle really bad with anxiety. And I know that when it's really bad, my intrusive thoughts are like out of control. Like I'm just thinking the most horrific things, going to like the worst case scenario about every possible thing in my life. And so I know that when I can kind of recognize like, you're feeling real on edge because you're kind of obsessively thinking about this one thing or whatnot, it's kind of a warning sign of like, okay, you should probably get back into therapy or, you know, really dive back into mindfulness. Or medication for me has been really helpful. I know it's not for everyone, but kind of just knowing yourself more of like what some of those signs are of like, I need to be really careful with myself right now, or making sure that I'm, you know, taking those steps to mitigate the spiral as best as you can.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the very minimum, like what I've come to learn, because I know for me, like healing and you know, positive thoughts and mental health care and stuff like that. I know for so long I was always just like,
totally,
my issues are more complicated than that. You know, like it was definitely an ego thing, and I was just like, whatever. Like people think that makes them feel better. That doesn't work for me. Blah blah blah. But I think at a very minimum, regardless of how complex your issues are, regardless of like, you know, what diagnoses you may have or whatever challenges, I think everyone deserves mentally and physically to experience peace. You know,
100%.
I think no matter what you're going through, no matter what lifestyle you have, that is something that everyone deserves. And I think that's a benefit of mindfulness, whatever that looks like. I know for me, it's like spending time in nature, meditating recently, you know, I picked up on. What are your guys' like things that kind of like get you in the best zone, like really make you feel at peace?
I would say honestly, one of the things that I use a lot is just being with my dogs. I'm a huge animal person. My dogs really like, I mean, I love them because they're my pets, but also I have this like really strong connection. They're very therapeutic for me. So I would say that's one thing that I use a lot is like if I'm stressed at all, I go over and hug Charlie and immediately I can just feel my heart rate go down and it's just so helpful. I would say also, a lot of mindfulness in the sense of I have like different, so there's this one thing that I use all the time. I think it's called like stop think, but basically it's this idea, which when my therapist first told me about it, I was like, that sounds like some weird ass shit and it's not going to work. But basically when I'm having intrusive thoughts, instead of allowing my brain to just keep going with it, because really when you're having, even if you're having negative thoughts, your brain is still basically getting a reward. You're getting that like hit of dopamine. And even if it's like something terrible and negative, it's what's familiar to you. And you're almost in a way like addicted to that dopamine hit. And so if you have a negative thought or an intrusive thought, you're rewarding yourself by like continuously doing it. And that's why our brains are like, oh, let's keep going. But so stop think is the idea of the second you register the fact that you're having a negative thought or intrusive thought, you in your head say stop and then picture something really, whatever makes you happy. It could be the beach, it could be a animal, I mean a piece of cake, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is, it just kind of has to be consistent. So for me, when I'm having issues, I go to that a lot, is like stop, like you don't even let your brain go there, and then I picture my dog usually, And then over time, you have to do it a lot because sometimes you're like, wow, I've done this like 8 times in the past minute. Like
Because it takes a while to retrain your brain.
Yeah, but eventually you do retrain your brain. And so if you're not allowing it to basically get rewarded for having bad, quote unquote, bad behavior, then you kind of retrain it so that it doesn't feel the need to give you those intrusive thoughts. And it doesn't work all the time. It's not 100%. It's not like, oh, I'm cured now, but it has definitely helped. Like I will say that is one thing that I think people should try. I mean, it doesn't cost anything. You can do it as many times as you want. It's all internally.
Like a grounding technique.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And I know there's like so many different types of grounding techniques. I know the ones for me is like find 5 things that are red, find 5 things that are green, just in moments where I'm having like a panic attack, struggling with anxiety, stuff like that. But I haven't even tried that, and I like that. It's fun. I'll have to test that out.
When I first started doing it, I mean, I was in such a bad place that I was doing it probably like 500 times a day. It was like, and I was like, I feel crazy doing this. Like, what is going on? But I stuck with it, and after a few weeks of doing it, I was like, wow, I'm having to do this less, and it seems to be really helping. So that's I would say it's a grounding technique. Yeah, grounding is having those things that you can go to, whether it's deep breathing or I think it's called box breathing.
Box breathing.
Where you're like inhale 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds,
stuff.
exhale for 5 seconds, hold. And
y'all should try that out. It's like it actually works really well.
And I feel like if you're not used to doing these types of coping mechanisms, and it almost seems it's kind of goofy. Like you were saying, well, my problems are a lot bigger than just learning how to breathe.
Exactly.
It's like they don't understand what I'm going through, and I think a lot of people sadly feel that of like, well, you don't know what it's like to be walking in my shoes. And it's like, well, of course not, because everyone's experiences are different. But I think you'd be surprised that you're really never alone. And no matter how unique and strange you may feel in your own, situation, I think you'd be surprised how many people are also feeling that same way, which is comforting in a way.
So true. And it's about building your toolkit, finding out what works for you. There's so many different things that, everyone's got something different that they kind of go to, or what can work for them. And it's like testing them all out and figuring out which one works best for you.
Some people swear by journaling. It's not for me.
Yeah, I've tried that too.
I don't know.
My hand cramps up. I have bad handwriting, and then I just feel bad about my handwriting.
Yeah, the same. And I'm like, oh, my handwriting sucks. This looks like shit. So I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't for me.
That's the biggest recommendation I got all the time too. Like growing up, like that was the thing. It was like, just journal it out. In a weird way, journaling has never been effective for me because it almost like cements and further intensifies whatever I'm experiencing.
Sure. Can totally see
because
that.
I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like writing it out. Oh my God, this is real. It's like a big thing. This is serious. And then if I like read back through my journal entries, I'm like, damn, I am a depressed bitch. Like this is so depressing. I'm like, wow.
Will journal and then rip it out and like physically crumple it or like shred it or something. So you're basically like shedding that whatever negative thing you were thinking about and then discarding it, and it's kind of like resembles like throwing that away.
That's like ritualizes it.
Exactly.
Like gives you that kinesthetic experience of like putting those emotions away in a healthy way, I guess. Okay, maybe I should try that. I don't know.
She's
the hand cramping is real though.
The hand cramping. Oh yeah. I don't write anything. Now I'm thinking like, damn, when's the last time I literally wrote something? Never. What am I gonna do? Type my feelings?
I can hold a pen without my hands hurting.
I know, it's really
I avoid writing at all costs.
It's really bad.
Yeah, it is really bad.
Well, I think that's a cool ritual. Like speaking of rituals too, I like, obviously I'm kind of biased, but I think a great way to help with like the self-care and mindfulness moment is skincare.
Yeah.
And I have to bring this up because I did some digging and I found your skincare routine on your vlog channel.
Oh my gosh. Wow, you really went hard because like no one watches that channel and I haven't posted anything in months. So.
Oh my God, I loved it. I was reacting. Your routine was so good. You were using like the AHA peel mask from The Ordinary, the red one. I think you're using First Aid Beauty, which I was like, oh my God.
That's my moisturizer. I love the Use People green tea cleanser.
That was the other
But
one.
I have to say, Hyram, the only reason I use those is because of you. I'm not kidding.
Skincare routine is because of Hyram.
I am a big fan of your channel and your content.
Definitely.
Kendall introduced me. Like you found Hyram years ago.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I
you
was
gotta check out
how
this
you guys
guy.
got into skincare.
You.
Literally you.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not
Literally
kidding.
No way. That's amazing.
Yeah, what was I using before? Like Cetaphil or something, which is it's not bad.
That's not bad.
But yeah, I use the green tea. Like that is a huge.
So good,
I know.
Right?
Yeah,
So
Use to the People is an awesome brand.
Yeah.
Um,
It's amazing.
yeah,
I mean,
love all
like,
that.
walk me through your guys' routines because I know people listening want to know, and I selfishly want to know.
Well, this year I've gotten onto the tretinoin game. Am I saying
She's
that
a
right?
Tretinoin, right? Tretinoin?
Prescription.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're prescription girlies here.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah. So I use a mixture of tretinoin and
Niacinamide? Is that what?
I think so.
Or azelaic acid?
Azelaic
Azelaic
acid.
Oh, amazing.
Together. It's formulated through Apostrophe. Have you ever heard of
Oh,
Apostrophe?
yeah. Apostrophe's great.
Yeah, they sponsor the Sesh sometimes, but yeah, I have found great results with that, so that's been huge. But yeah, staying
Good.
consistent, finding things that don't dry me out, especially in Colorado.
Oh, it's
What's
so
your
dry here,
cleanser
y'all.
you use?
The green tea,
Okay.
or
Green tea.
I actually use the Selfless cleanser too a lot.
Oh,
yeah,
thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
I
my
love
shower
that.
cleanser.
That's a really good cleanser.
I
Yep.
normally use that one in the mornings, and then like really go in with the green tea at night.
Yeah,
But-
I think that's a great way to utilize it. Because the
Yeah.
green tea one, like from Youth to the People, like I love that one to death, but I can't use it twice a day personally because
Yeah.
it's just a little too. It like cleans really deeply.
Right.
So I feel like it's a great one to use at night.
Yeah.
And then thank you for using the Selfless.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it's great. I love the branding.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I love all the names of everything.
Mhm.
Rainbow
Thank
algae.
you.
Who would have known rainbow algae is a
Yeah,
thing?
that's so
I
fun.
know,
Yeah.
right? Oh, I love that you guys geek out over that because that is
Yeah.
like my language. I
Yeah.
just like it's so cool. But thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
what does your routine look like?
Let's see. So usually when I'm wearing makeup, I'll go in with the pharmacy
Oh,
green clean.
Green clean. Yep, balm.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I use that every night
love
too.
that shit, man.
Yeah.
They're
Double
oh,
cleansing is life.
Yeah, then I go in with the Youth to the
Absolutely.
People, and then I go in with my tretinoin and First Aid Beauty. Mine's pretty simple. I don't use a lot.
Yeah, I use
I-
first aid too.
Growing up, like during puberty, I had some acne, but it was never like that much. But then I hit like 23, and all of a sudden my face like exploded
Really?
with
Same with
hormonal
me.
acne, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What the
Really?
hell is
Yeah.
going on?"
And it's so frustrating because like adult acne, like that shit is hard to get
It
rid
doesn't
of
go
because-
away.
Yeah, it tends to stay a lot longer. It's very difficult to kind of like deal with the skin as opposed to
Yeah.
like when you're a teenager, which definitely can be rough, but a lot of times like the skin and the body are just changing so
Yeah.
much that it a lot of times it's like a shorter phase. But when you're an adult, it's like fuck.
Yeah,
But you're
I know.
using tretinoin, which is
Yeah,
like a
which
great
has
thing
helped
to-
a lot.
Big
But I
difference.
purged for like 7 months. Like I literally had insane acne for months.
Yeah, it was
literally like
pretty
7 months. Like
crazy.
it was bad. At least for me.
Oh
I know
my
everyone's different,
God.
but for me it was really bad.
Wait, do you still experience that by using tretinoin?
No, not anymore. It
Oh.
finally started to work.
That is
But
the
now I'm
longest
like-
purging session I've ever.
Yeah.
It got so much worse, and I
Your
was like, I'm
skin
just gonna hold on. I'm
improved
just
so
gonna hold on.
much.
I'm just gonna hold on. And so
Yeah.
now it got a lot better. Now it's like kind of coming back, and I'm a little pissed. So I just started spironolactone.
Oh,
And-
Yeah, I'm on that too.
really?
That
Yeah,
helped too.
That's helped too.
Okay.
I'm on like a.
It's helping with hair from postpartum hair loss too.
Oh really?
So, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Okay. Yeah, because I was gonna ask you like, what has your skin been like? You know, postpartum and also like during the pregnancy too.
Yeah, during the pregnancy, I definitely had a lot of hormonal,
Mm.
like the big painful
Ugh,
ones.
those are the ones that are so annoying.
Awful. But yeah, you can't use much when you're pregnant. So I had to use a lot of like benzoyl peroxide, which I think was drying my skin out a ton.
Yeah.
So I had to like completely revamp my skin or like redo my skincare routine when I was pregnant. I was like looking through all the things I can't use. I'm like, pretty much everything in here. This is great. Okay.
You're like perfect.
Like any like strong exfoliants.
Yeah, you came
and
over.
stuff.
You're like, here, just take all this. I can't use it. I was like, sweet.
I was like
oh my
giving
God,
it
I'm
out.
So sorry.
Yeah, I was like, oh, are you sure?
You poor thing.
For real though, but at least now you're back in the tretinoin game. A lot
Yeah.
of like people ask about that. They're just like, "What can I use when I'm pregnant?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, nothing that's active."
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Like-
It's, I mean, it makes sense. You can't do anything when you're pregnant. The list of things you can't do is huge.
Did it just make you appreciate like? Because that's actually
Yes.
I wanted to like finish up with that actually like pregnancy experience. You have had the baby. Like,
I
how's it
did.
been?
Amazing. I mean, it's really been the most amazing transformative experience of my life. It really has. My daughter is everything to me. She's like my best little friend. She's so funny.
She's so
and
cute.
honestly, I've had a pretty easy go because she's a very happy, easygoing baby and she
Good.
sleeps a lot.
Oh
So,
wow.
yeah, I always feel bad saying that because I know that's not always the experience. And I'm sure my next kid will give me absolute hell because you can't get two really good ones, right? But she's made the transition into parenting really easy and enjoyable, and it's brought me and my husband really way closer together than we ever have been. And Yeah, pregnancy was wild though. The whole pregnancy was a bit of a trip.
I just can't believe you grew a human.
Yeah, me
It still
either.
blows
I
my
still
mind.
can't
Literally,
believe
like
it.
as you like
The
talk
hell?
about it, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, you're like a fully responsible adult, like with a kid.
Yeah.
Where
You're a
like
mom.
I feel
I'm a
so
mom.
inferior. Like that's so badass. Like you grew a human inside your body, had that human and are taking care of it. The responsibility, I could never. Well, literally, I
It's
could.
wild. And it's honestly, it was shocking. Like you think having the full 9, almost 10 months to prepare mentally would really get you there. But like when you have that baby in your arms and you're like, she is completely relying on me. I am responsible for her 1000%. What kind of human she turns into, her safety. It was shocking. It honestly like kind of sent me into a tailspin for those first 2 weeks because I was like, this is insane because you go your whole life just taking care of yourself, brushing your teeth, going to the bathroom, feeding yourself. And then you're doing everything for someone else before you can even take care of yourself. And that was a huge, huge adjustment. I mean, it really is. And I don't think you can understand it until you're like doing it, right? Like there's no preparing for it.
Totally.
Like people, I took some classes, people gave me tons of advice, but like until I was like in the thick of it, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. So it's been a learning curve.
I mean, ultimate respect. Speaking as someone who
Thank
can
you.
barely take care of themselves, I struggle
Hey,
to
don't
even.
sell yourself short, Hyram.
No, it's true. You know how like even people on my team, they're just like, Hiram, have you eaten today yet? And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, that was
Oh my
me
God, I
earlier.
forgot. And it's just like I can barely take care of myself, let alone a whole ass another human being. That
It's
is
wild.
mad impressive.
It really is.
I was watching your podcast about how you took like a big break from like work and social media and everything, and you're like, this was the first time since middle school, you said, that you slept like a full night's sleep more than like consistently.
Wow.
Because like when I was in high school, that's when I like launched an online business. And I was working 2 jobs in addition to like my online business, so I just got very used to
really?
sleeping like 3 to 4 hours a night.
Wow.
I give
And
you
then-
props.
No, it's not healthy. That's not a good
Okay,
thing.
you're right. You're right.
It's very.
I'm impressed, but I'm like, I don't know how. I mean, I am impressed. I can't help it.
I mean, it was just not healthy. And like, I always prided myself on being like the person that was like, go, 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 just 150% into everything,
Yeah.
you know? But that only works if you're like prioritizing yourself, like taking care of yourself. If you're
Yeah.
neglecting yourself, that shit will catch up with you.
For sure.
And the past few years, like with just a string of like pulling all-nighters every single week and just like working just nonstop,
Yeah.
reality comes and hits you fast where you're just
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I've completely neglected myself. So like that had, you know, I'm grateful to be able to take a break and be able to like learn that lesson. And now I'm like,
Good
so
for
proud of
you.
myself. I'm like sleeping. But I feel so ridiculous talking about this while you have like a whole ass human being that you're taking care of.
No.
And, like in addition to that, like that's
She sleeps a lot. I'm lucky.
hey, I'm so glad that she's an easy baby.
Me too. I'm glad. And yeah, my husband normally gets up with her at night, which I think is a fair trade for me carrying her
That's
and
right.
pushing her out.
That's
He gets
right.
to get the night shift most
I
times.
think so. I think that's accurate. I feel like you know, in relationships or when people have children, the kind of dynamic that I see between like 2 partners, I just feel like the person who didn't carry the baby can't make any demands and should be in full submission.
Thank
of the
you.
woman.
That is absolutely right.
That's my personal opinion on
And
it.
luckily my husband has the same opinion, so
Okay.
I'm fortunate. Yeah.
That's good. I mean, I'm so happy for you. Like, congratulations. Seriously, that's
Thank
been
you.
incredible. And like, thank you guys for like sitting down and like talking. I know we like went super deep into topics, but that's just the way I like
I
to
love it.
roll.
Oh, we
Like,
love
yeah,
it.
this is awesome.
We're all about
Yeah.
the deepness, the
So
depth.
deep.
so
So
friggin'
deep.
deep.
But we're also
Have we
like,
already gone like an hour?
yeah, how long are we recording for? I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, like
About
basically
about
like
an
50
hour.
minutes.
Wow.
Oh my
gosh,
God.
time
That
is
went
just
by so
flying.
fast.
Yeah, this
I
has been
love
so
hearing
fun.
from you guys. Like, thank you. Like you with like all your like mental health knowledge. Like I
Oh.
feel like it's so. I just love hearing the tips and recommendations, and then you also just like opening up about like the experience with true crime. Like it's so interesting to hear about the back end of it, but so encouraging and inspiring to be like, wow, you're such a good person, just doing good things. Both of
Thank
you
you.
guys, like.
You're such a good person
Yeah,
doing amazing
you're
things. We're
amazing.
so impressed by you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
And
I
we're so
appreciate
excited
this.
that your stuff's in Target now.
Thank you. I know
Yeah.
Selfless is at Target. It's a big moment. Literally since I started the brand, like I was like, Target's the goal.
Yes.
One day.
So is it in Colorado locations yet?
It is.
Okay, I'm going to Target. I need to go
Thank
find it like
you.
in the flesh.
Yeah, it's at like
in the bottle.
almost all
In
of
the
the
plastic.
stores. Yeah, I've been doing like little filming sessions
I saw.
at different
I love
Targets.
it.
Yeah,
It's so
I've been hitting up
fun.
all the different Colorado locations.
So cool.
That's so cool. So when you come up to someone, do they normally know who you are? Or
So I have made the ultimate decision to like only really like interview people who already do recognize me, because the
Yeah.
last time I was filming, so I don't have a problem going up to people and like asking them, be like, hey, this is, my account. Do you want
Yeah.
to film with me? But the last place I went up to, most of my followers are like, women, and usually like, high school, college age. That's like the majority of the people who recognize me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if this girl watches my videos, because she like kept looking at me. So I like went up to her. I was like, hi, this is my channel. Like, do you want to be in one of my videos? I'll buy you any skincare product. And I didn't realize she was 13, and her dad came up to her. He was like, why are you talking to my 13-year-old daughter? And I was like,
no.
you have every right to be upset. And
Yeah.
I was not even thinking clearly. So I just let people come up to me.
Oh, that's a hard decision. That's smart though.
Yeah.
See, yeah, you got the leg up versus someone who's trying to do those interviews and doesn't really, people don't really know them.
Yeah.
Can't blame him at all. You can't blame
Yeah.
anyone for being like, who the fuck is this guy? That's, like
Yeah.
coming up to me in a store, So,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's
dad
super fun.
vibes.
It's fun to like, talk to people, be in Target, be around it.
I know,
So-
those have been
Cute.
so fun to watch.
know.
I love those.
Thank
Love
you. Yeah, lots more to come. And
Good.
also, everyone who's listening, be sure to go check out the Sesh podcast as well, because
thank
we are going to be doing an episode right after this.
Yeah.
Which will be super fun. You guys should listen to it. Also, make sure you're listening to every single episode from the Sesh that comes out every
Oh,
week. Also on
you.
Thursday too.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you guys again for
Twinsies.
coming up. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you.
Thank you
So
for
great
This
to
having
was
talk
us.
with
awesome.
you.
You're the best. Thank you, Hyram.
Our first time on someone else's podcast.
I know. It was so great. You guys,
This
A+.
was
Amazing
fun.
job.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.